of the rhetoric of the police brutality, the issues, very sensitive issues of racism that we are now encountering. And what we have decided to do is to discuss several governmental systems that are affecting the issues that we are facing today. And not just discuss them, but find resolutions and give out different challenges for people to begin to respond to the life situations in a different way. And so I have called for these phenomenal men who will have great input to what is going on. First, before we can do anything, we always have to find out what the problems are, what the issues are, what are the contributing factors to what the things that we're facing today. So you can never solve a problem or you can never have a resolution until you actually know what it is you're fighting. And so when we talk about racism, there's a greater issue at hand further than somebody just don't like anybody, because racism is tied to power, it's tied to money, it's tied to progression, it's tied to moving forward. So we have to get to the root of why we can't move forward, why we can't progress, why we still experiencing poverty in a way that we should not be experiencing, why our community still suffering, before we can actually deal with the fact that the white community is not getting along with the black community. It's way deeper than that. And so God has established a government called religion. And religion plays a key part in everything that goes on in the world. So my purpose for bringing these men here today was to let's look at this system to see why is it so broken, why is it so ineffective, and why are we not being or why are we not coming together to learn how to commune with one another and provide solutions that our people can benefit from. So this is why we called the live panel today. And unfortunately, when you have these discussions, these are discussions that people don't want to talk about. But I believe in this season there are a people who are raising up and they are doing things different. Now, we've been seeing marches for years. We've been hearing about civil rights movements. We've been hearing about, our great predecessors who have gone before us and they protested, they've marched, they've done all kinds of things. But yet there's still no change. So now we need to look at things differently and we need to operate differently. We need to be strategic and we need to put things in place that will become action steps for us so that we can begin to see change. Okay? A lot said, right? So you have time. Everybody who is viewing us live stream, please go ahead and invite your friends, invite your followers. For those of you all who are here with us, if you have Periscope, hop on Periscope. You are free to invite, the people who follow you on Periscope or any form of social media and tell them you want to be a part of this discussion. And I never despise small beginners because it's always small beginners who lead great movements. So you are here, that means that you've been chosen to be a part of something great, and the information that you're going to receive today is going to leave you with two things. Either you're going to decide to stay the same, or you're going to start to think and say, you know what, I need to do something different so that I can see change. So without further ado, of course we are live streaming www.elifemedia.net. You will not be able to call in tonight because we are actually outside of the studio. For those of you who are here with us, I admonish you to take out your paper, take out your pen. This is going to be a conversation maybe different than what you're used to hearing. We are not interested in quoting a whole lot of scriptures and getting people saved. We are interested in changing our community. So we're going to be thinking outside of the box today. We're going to be thinking about things that we can do in our community to make a difference. Different governmental systems that it will be beneficial for us to partner with so that we can bring our African American community into a place of poverty, into a place of progression instead of consistent oppression. So you're going to have questions when you hear things tonight. I admonish you to write them down so that you can get these questions answered because we'll have Q&A throughout the night. So before we get started, there are two videos that I want to play for you all. And I want you to listen and listen attentively. Write down your questions, write down your comments because they should provoke something within you. So that's how we're going to get started. Once we listen to these two videos, then we'll move forward with our panel, and we'll move forward with identifying different issues that are taking place that are beneath the surface of racism and move towards resolution. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. So the first video is a video that I found from Louis Farrakhan.
What was the payoff for? That she should be quiet, not bring this before a court of law, not even talk about it. Because if it came before a court of law, then depositions would have to be taken, subpoenas to all of the statements that were made by Mr. Van Dyke and all the officers, the watch commander, people that got the story and covered it and lied, saying that the brother lunged at them when the video clearly shows him walking across the white line away from the police. Now here's what troubles me, Cliff. The kind of way that black men are being shot down, not only in Chicago, but in America, tells me that there is a culture of violence against us that is now systemic, because it's happening everywhere. In San Francisco, a young black brother, 26, was shot 25 times, and he was walking away from the police, and the police went in front of him to block his walk, and the firing started. 25 shots. See, this is hate crime, because you don't shoot an animal when you go out to hunt 25 times and tear up the food that you're going to eat. So this is hatred of us. Now, having said that, this hush money, I've called it, that this would never see the light of day in a court of law, because every one of them are liars, deceivers. So when they would get exposed, their testimony as a group of liars. See, this is why it is systemic. What the hell is the union for? The union is the defense counsel for the police. The union does not wish to see discipline to a policeman that has killed somebody in wicked error. So now when you talk about getting rid of stuff, you got to go all the way to the top, clean it all the way to the bottom. Otherwise, black people have no hope in American jurisprudence.
That was the first video. The second video that I am going to share with you is actually a video that was created by my brother, Dana Stevens, who's joining us by Skype. It's powerful.
Hey friends, and well, let me be honest, probably before this video is over, some of you will consider me as an enemy. But I wanted to share a couple minutes about my thoughts, not only on the tragedies that we have been experiencing over these past months, and especially these last couple of days with the shootings of our black men, but what I'm coming to learn over my 23-year journey of being a white man, living and ministering amongst my black family here in several inner cities of Chicago. And I'm going to speak very black and white because, let's be honest, it's a black and white issue. I want to take you to the book of Exodus, chapter 1, and I wanted to share a little bit of what took place prior to the rise of Moses. When I read that, it talked about that the Pharaoh became concerned and very fearful that the Hebrew slaves were growing in number and in power. So in order to maintain their oppression, he put upon them great labor. He put upon the Hebrew slaves cruelty to keep them down. However, they still grew. And so he brought together some midwives, and he instructed them that when a Hebrew boy was born, kill him. Well, these midwives did not follow, and the Hebrew slaves continued to grow. Eventually, the Pharaoh became so hatred towards those Hebrew slaves that he made a decree. He put out an order that male baby boy Hebrew slaves were to be killed by casting them into the Nile River. Let's look at America. We brought blacks into this country as slaves. We never intended them to be anything other than a slave. But they began to grow in number and in power, and eventually they fought their way to some freedom. So we became even more cruel. And to keep our black Americans down, we lynched. But yet they rose. So then we used the welfare system, the criminal justice system, to keep them down, to contain them, to destroy them. But yet they rose, and they're rising. Then we built prisons and jails to hold them. Yet they rose. And so now we are doing exactly what the Pharaoh did at the end, sending out a decree: kill them. So until we admit that when we wrote this Constitution that all men are created equal, that we never intended to include our black brothers and sisters, our nation may end up facing exactly what the Egyptians faced when they refused to let God's people go. So I'm going to say this to my white fellow Americans, that the bloodshed that is on its way is not on the hands of our fellow black Americans, but it's on our hands. We are the ones that are refusing to let God's people go. We are the ones that are refusing to acknowledge that we do not value our black brothers and sisters as equal individuals or equal Americans as us white men. And to my black brothers and sisters, the racial issues, as I've said, have been there from the very foundation. But why do we see it more? Because there's a shifting. See, us white men have been at the head since the foundation. But we've got a black president. And you know, we've done everything in our power to keep him from really changing things. Now we have another minority rising to the top, a white female. What does that say? Those of us who are white men who have been at the head are now starting to see and fear that we are going to become the tail. And we know what we've done to you. And so now we're fearful that you're going to do to us what we have done to you. But I will say this. I've lived in a black community for 23 years. I've never been treated the way that this country has treated my black Americans. So I call out my white Americans to say we better heed, repent, acknowledge and change. Because if we don't, I just want to again say this: the bloodshed that we will experience is on our hands, not the hands of our fellow Black Americans. I welcome your comments. I welcome your
Wow. You have to take a deep breath after listening to that, right? I thought what was so interesting about that is that you hear it coming from someone of the Caucasian ethnicity group. So if you won't admit that racism is alive and it's well active, and there is a systematic problem, then I don't know what to say to you. As we've been discussing, we started off in June dealing with the African American man. That whole month, we dealt with issues that the African American male is subject to. And this is how these open forum panels started, because of the need to discuss issues that are oppressing our African American males. And then things shifted a little bit when we started seeing the blatant racism or the war between the abuse of power, which is a form of racism, between our white police officers against our African American males. Now, we know that this has been going on since the foundation of the world. But what is different now is that we can actually see it in real time. I was having this discussion with a person earlier this week. Because of my age, 44 years old, I have not seen racism like some people have experienced it. And I'm a female. So I have not experienced racism on a level that our African American males have experienced it, especially our older generations. There's a difference, because the baby boomers, they experienced it more than the millennials will probably ever experience, okay? At the point of the millennials, it's more aggressive, I would say, because of the type of people that they're dealing with. You have to look at the different age and culture differences. The baby boomers tolerated a lot more things than the millennials. They don't care. They're going to fight back. They are going to demand justice, where our older generations kind of just dealt with things and said that we will sing our spirituals and we'll trust God to deliver us. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't happened because we're still dealing with it. And so we have to begin to look at this thing. And I always say that there is first of all, religion operates as a democracy. That means that it's operating from a standpoint that we rule and reign over our congregation, as opposed to becoming the servant to our community. Our churches are expecting the community to serve it, where you bring all of your tithes, you bring all of your offerings, you spend all your time there, but then we give you nothing in return but a prayer and send you on your way. Things have to change. It has to start somewhere. There are several governmental entities that God set up, and religion is one of them. Religion plays a major role in everything that goes on in the earth today. Why? Because God is supposed to be the center of it all. Now, we respect that people have different beliefs as to who their God is. I am not here to try to persuade you that it's Jesus Christ, that it's Buddha, that it's Muhammad. That is not my place, because at this point, ain't none of them working. If you look at the way the world is moving today. So we can't deny that there's a higher power. We cannot deny that there's a God. So there is something wrong with us, and there is something wrong with the way that we're operating. There's something wrong with the way our system is, in that we are not seeing the manifestation of God's hand in the earth the way that we're supposed to see it. There is no way on the face of this earth that we should be living under the oppression of a judicial system that gives a person the absolute right to kill a person